This is a 2.8 billion-year-old sphere. It's perfectly round, made of hard metal, and has 3 parallel grooves carved around its equator. Geologists say it's a natural formation. But what natural process uses a lathe? History is not a straight line. We imagine it as a simple path from caves to castles to capsules, but the Earth is a messy archive. And in the dust, in forgotten tombs and deep in the ocean, we find the pieces that don't fit. Artifacts of impossible engineering, glimpses of lost science, echoes of a future that seems to have happened in the past. These are not just curiosities. They are phantom transmissions from a timeline we were never meant to see. The spheres of deep time. The timeline of life on Earth is vast. Bacteria, 3 billion years ago. Dinosaurs, 200 million. Humans, 300,000. This is the official story of our planet. A long, slow, understandable progression from simple cells to complex life. Nothing intelligent, nothing capable of manufacturing, existed until the blink of an eye we call human history. Geologists call artifacts found in strange places, concretions, natural, random formations of mineral. But in South Africa, miners found something that breaks that timeline, something manufactured. Something 2.8 billion years old. The story starts in the small town of Ottosdal. Miners were digging in a pyrophyllite deposit, a soft mineral, and in that deposit, they began to find small metal spheres, dozens of them. These spheres are the ultimate anomaly. They are a collection of surgically precise details that defy geology. First, their hardness. The bluish metal spheres are so hard that a steel file cannot scratch them. Second, their shape. They are almost perfectly round, a symmetry not often found in nature. And the kicker, the detail that sends a shiver down the spine, is the grooves. Many of these spheres have 3 parallel, concentric grooves carved around their equator, as if they were placed on a lathe and machined. Now, the cosmic punchline, the rock layer. Geologists have dated this pyrophyllite deposit. It is not 1 million years old. It is not 100 million. It is Precambrian. The date is 2.8 billion years old. Let's put that in context. This is a time when the Earth's atmosphere had almost no oxygen. It is a time when the only life on this planet was single-celled organisms. No plants, no animals, no dinosaurs, and certainly no intelligent life capable of machining metal spheres. Geologists call them natural concretions, nodes of mineral that form in the rock. But the grooves, the perfect symmetry, the metallic sheen, no known natural process can explain them. They are an anomaly of deep time. Manufactured objects, sitting in a rock layer that predates intelligent life by billions of years. What are they? Who, or what, made them? The footprints at the end of an era. The spheres break our timeline in the deep past. But what if we found something just as impossible, but in our own human history? The official unbreakable rule is simple. Humans first entered the Americas after the last ice age, around 13,000 years ago. They were the Clovis people, skilled hunters who arrived after the great megafauna, the mammoths, the giant ground sloths, had already begun to vanish. The timeline is clear. The two groups did not overlap in any significant way. Humans came later. This was the story, set in stone, taught in every textbook. Until a park ranger went for a walk in New Mexico. In the White Sands National Park, footprints are often preserved in the gypsum sand. But these were different. They were ancient. And they were human. When scientists from the United States Geological Survey finally dated them, they didn't use guesswork. They used radiocarbon dating on the ancient ditchgrass seeds that had been pressed into the footprints, a perfect snapshot in time. The date they got back wasn't 13,000 years, it was 23,000 years. This discovery alone is revolutionary. It pushes back the arrival of humans in the Americas by 10,000 years. But that isn't the part of the story that should keep you awake at night. The true mystery isn't when they walked, it's what they walked with. The human tracks, mostly from teenagers and children, run for over a mile. And running right alongside them, and sometimes inside them, are the massive, unmistakable prints of a giant ground sloth. A creature that stood 10 feet tall, weighed over a ton, and was supposed to have been gone from the continent for 10 millennia. This isn't just coexistence, it's an interaction. The sloth tracks show it was aware of the humans. It walks in a straight line, then suddenly stops, swiveling, rearing up on its hind legs, its massive claws digging into the sand. The human tracks keep their distance, then close in, stalking the giant. This is a prehistoric nightmare, a scene from a lost world, captured perfectly in the sand. The prints are a fact, preserved in gypsum. A snapshot of a human and a monster sharing the same earth in the same moment. It's a discovery that doesn't just rewrite a chapter, it tears the entire book of human history apart. We've just laid out 2 pieces of evidence that shatter our official timeline. We have 8 more. This is a case. If you want to be part of the jury, subscribe now so you don't miss the final verdict. The Citadel of Impossible Stones. So, the timeline is broken, but what were these ancient people capable of? We're told they were primitive, using stone hammers and brute force. High in the Bolivian Andes, 13,000 feet above the sea, lies a ruin that laughs at our understanding of engineering. Its name is Puma Punku. Mainstream archaeology dates it to around 500 AD, built by the Tiwanaku people. The official story is that they used log rollers and bronze chisels. This is the story of ridicule. Now, here is the disturbing evidence. First, the stone. It's not soft limestone. The primary blocks are andesite, a volcanic rock nearly as hard as diamond. Second, the scale. The blocks are not small. They are monolithic. Many weigh over 100 tons. One single block weighs an estimated 131 tons. For perspective, that is the weight of 75 large cars. Third, the source. The quarry for this red sandstone isn't nearby, it's 10 miles away. The quarry for the even harder andesite is 60 miles away. And uphill. Fourth, there is no wood at 13,000 feet. There are no trees to make log rollers. And you cannot carve diamond, hard andesite with a soft bronze chisel. The logistics are not just difficult, they are impossible. But the real mystery, the detail that defies all explanation, is the cuts. The stones are not rough, hewn. They are astonishingly precise, with no mortar, no gaps, fitting together like massive puzzle pieces. The most famous are the H blocks. They are not just cut, they are milled. They feature perfect, 90-degree right angles, complex interior corners, and small uniform drill holes, as if created by a machine. They are identical and interlocking. The precision is baffling. There are grooves cut into the rock that are fractions of an inch, yet remain perfectly straight over several feet. You cannot do this with a stone chisel and a bronze hammer. You simply can't. Who were these builders? How did they transport, cut, and assemble stones of this size and hardness? Puma Punku leaves us with 2 choices. Either our primitive ancestors were technological equals to us, or they had help. Neither answer is comfortable. The battery in Babylon. They could move mountains, but could they harness power? The official story of electricity begins with Alessandro Volta in the year 1800. We are taught that the ancient world was powered by muscle, water, and fire. That is the established fact. But in 1938, in the archives of the National Museum of Iraq, a German archaeologist named Wilhelm Koenig found a small, unassuming clay pot. It was 2,000 years old, and it was about to rewrite the history of electricity. This is the disturbing evidence. The artifact was from a Parthian settlement dating to sometime between 200 BC and 200 AD. It was simple, and at first glance, completely uninteresting. But Koenig looked closer, and the object's construction told a story. Let's look at the surgically precise details of the mechanism. First, there is a 6-inch tall terracotta pot. Second, it is sealed at the top with an asphalt plug, a black, watertight bitumen. Third, protruding through the plug and held in place by it, is a single iron rod. Fourth, inside the pot, surrounding the iron rod but not touching it, is a copper cylinder. This is not a ritual object. It is a perfect, functioning blueprint for a galvanic cell. It is a battery. All it needs to work is an electrolyte. A mild acid. When modern replicas are built and filled with lemon juice, vinegar, or even grape juice, all substances readily available in ancient Babylon, they produce a direct, usable electric current. They generate between 0.5 and 2 volts. This is a perfect, factual parallel to Alessandro Volta's first battery, which he invented in the year 1800, 2,000 years later. A 2,000-year-old battery. What was it for? The leading theory is electroplating, a way to chemically coat cheaper metals with a thin layer of gold or silver. Others suggest it was used in medical therapy, or perhaps as a magical trick in a temple to awe the masses. Or was it for something else entirely, something we haven't found yet? The Baghdad battery is a jolt to our timeline, a simple clay pot that proves the modern age of power may have begun millennia ago in the desert. The impossible nanotechnology of Rome. They had engineering, they had power. What about science? The official story of the Roman Empire is concrete, iron, and brute force. Their technology was impressive, but understandable. They built aqueducts, not particle accelerators. Then, we found the Lycurgus cup, a fragile glass chalice from the 4th century. For most of its life, it sat in a museum, dismissed as a curiosity. Because in reflected light, when lit from the front, it's a dull, opaque, unassuming jade green. It looks almost like stone, carved with a scene of the mythical king Lycurgus. It is nothing special, this is the artifact of ridicule. But the disturbing evidence appears when you shine a light through it, and the cup transformed. The glass, once green, became perfectly translucent and glowed a brilliant, blood red. The king's face, once passive, became a deep crimson. This isn't a pigment, it isn't a stain, it's a form of physics that should not have existed for another 1,600 years. In the 1990s, British scientists, baffled by the effect, examined a fragment of the cup under an electron microscope. What they found, they couldn't explain. The 4th century Roman artisans had impregnated the glass with microscopic particles of gold and silver. These particles were so small they measured just 70 nanometers across. That is 1,000 times smaller than a single grain of table salt. This is nanotechnology. The artisans had engineered the particles to a specific size. When light hits the cup from the front, the electrons in the metal particles scatter, reflecting a green hue. But when light passes through the cup, the particles resonate in a different way, scattering a perfect blood red. The Romans had created dichroic glass. It's a principle that modern science, with all its power and knowledge, only invented in the late 20th century. NASA uses a similar principle today for sensors and optical equipment. The Romans were doing it 16 centuries ago. How did 4th century artisans achieve this? How did they master a process that today requires electron microscopes and particle accelerators? The Lycurgus cup isn't just art. It's a technological phantom, an echo from a future that somehow ended up in the past. The Cave of the Phantom Surgeons. So, our primitive ancestors had impossible engineering, electrical power, and nanotechnology. But what about the most delicate field of all, medicine? The official story is that ancient medicine was a brutal affair of superstition and guesswork. We imagine them living in caves, hiding from beasts, and living short, harsh lives. We find skulls with holes drilled in them trepanation and assume it was a fatal, barbaric ritual, a way to release evil spirits. The disturbing evidence says otherwise. We found microlithic tools in places like the Bhimbetka rock shelters of central India. Miniature instruments so precisely carved that they challenge even modern artisans. Blades of obsidian and flint, chipped to an edge that is, on a molecular level, sharper than a modern steel scalpel. For decades, we assumed these tools were for hunting. But then, we looked at another set of evidence. Ancient skulls found across the globe, from Neolithic France to ancient Peru. These skulls show trepanation. Large, circular or rectangular holes, cut, scraped or drilled directly into the skull. And when we look closer, we see the bone around the edge of the hole is not sharp. It is smooth, rounded, and clean. The bone grew back. This is a surgically precise fact that changes everything. It means the patients survived. They lived for weeks, for months, for years after the procedure. This was not a brutal ritual. It was a successful, complex medical operation. We struggle to comprehend it. A primitive surgeon, in a cave, using a stone blade, cutting into a living human skull, and succeeding. How did they know about anatomy? How did they know about sterilization? It's a medical mystery that proves, once again, we have profoundly underestimated the people who came before us. What do you believe? Is this a collection of one-off anomalies? Or are we looking at the fingerprints of a lost, global civilization? Let us know your theory in the comments below. The computer from 100 BC. We've established a pattern of impossible technology. But was it isolated, or was it connected? The official story is that the ancient world was fragmented, a collection of isolated geniuses, and then we found the Antikythera mechanism. In 1901, divers off the coast of a Greek island found something that didn't belong. They had found a Roman-era shipwreck, and among the haul, they recovered a corroded, unassuming lump of bronze, which they mistook for a rock. For 70 years, that lump sat in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens. It was dismissed, forgotten. This is the artifact of ridicule. But in the 1970s, a new technology, X-ray and gamma-ray tomography, allowed scientists to finally peer inside the corroded mass. What they saw was impossible. The lump was not a lump. It was a device. It was a shoebox-sized, complex clockwork mechanism of at least 37 interlocking bronze gears. This was not a simple clock, it was an analog computer. It was so complex that it featured a differential gear. This is a sophisticated set of gears that allows a single power source to rotate two separate axles at different speeds. This is the kind of technology at the heart of every modern car's transmission. The device's function was to predict the cosmos. By turning a single knob on the side, the user could perfectly track the cycles of the sun, the phases of the moon, the positions of the 5 known planets, and even the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games. The sophistication of its gearing, the sheer genius of its design, would not be seen again in human history for 1,500 years. Who built this? An unknown Greek genius? And what else did they build? The Antikythera mechanism is a terrifying thought, a single surviving gear from a lost world of technological sophistication. A glitch in the matrix that proves their world was far more like ours than we dare to imagine. The glider in the pharaoh's tomb. A single computer is genius. But what about flight? The official story is that true flight belongs to the modern world, beginning with the Wright brothers. The ancients, we are told, could only dream. In 1898, in a tomb in Saqqara, Egypt, explorers found a small, wooden bird. They labeled it a child's toy. They were wrong. They were staring at a blueprint. The artifact was discovered in a tomb dating to around 200 BC. It's a small, 6-inch object carved from sycamore wood. It was sent to the Cairo Museum, labeled Wooden Bird Model, and filed away in a basement box, case closed. For 70 years, it sat in the dark. This is the artifact of ridicule. But in 1969, an archaeologist and aviation expert named Dr. Khalil Masiha was examining the collection. He recognized something that the original explorers, who had no concept of aerodynamics, had missed. The bird was not a bird at all. The disturbing evidence was in the details. First, its wings are not flat like a bird's. They have a distinct airfoil shape. They are curved on top and flat on the bottom, a specific design that is crucial for generating aerodynamic lift. Second, its tail is vertical, like the rudder or fin on an airplane, not horizontal like a bird's tail feathers, which are used for balance and steering. Third, the object has no legs. And fourth, its proportions are not of any known bird. They are the exact proportions of a modern glider. This was a testable hypothesis. A modern, scaled-up replica of the Saqqara bird was built and hand-launched. It flew. It was a stable, effective glider, capable of soaring long distances, a 2,200-year-old object that perfectly demonstrates the principles of modern aerodynamics. A toy? Or a model for a much larger, functional machine? It's an artifact that begs the question, were the ancients just dreaming of flight, or were they practicing? The stones of impossible flight. A single glider is a curiosity. But what if there was more? What if there was an entire library? If one artifact suggests impossible flight, it's a curiosity. If two do, it's a coincidence. But if an entire library of them does, it's a pattern. In the early 1960s, deep within the harsh Peruvian desert, a cave was uncovered that had remained hidden for centuries. Explorers initially expected simple depictions: daily life, hunters, animals, and villages. This was the official expectation, but as the dust was brushed aside, the disturbing evidence revealed itself. An astonishing scene. Humans were shown operating flying machines. This wasn't a single stone. It was a collection of thousands, and the impossible evidence, the surgically precise details, just keep stacking up. The stones depict gliders, early helicopters, and even contraptions strikingly similar to modern airplanes. They depict figures wearing what looked like protective suits. They depict hands gripping levers and controls mid-flight as though frozen in motion. They depict wings, cockpits, and control panels. Carefully shaped, positioned in ways that suggested understanding of balance, motion, and mechanics. The scale of the collection, the sheer volume, adds another layer of mystery. This isn't just art, it looks like a manual. The patterns across the carvings suggested experimentation, observation, and knowledge that seems far ahead of its time. Skeptics, of course, have dismissed them as modern forgeries, but the debate rages on. For those who have seen the stones, the intricacy and consistency are hard to deny. Is this just human imagination, or is it memory? A faded cultural echo of a time when mankind truly did slip the bonds of Earth. The stones are silent, but their message seems to be written in the sky. If this story makes you question your place in the timeline, share this video with someone. These are conversations that need to be had. The message in the stone: we've built a case. A broken timeline, impossible technology, and now evidence of a global, sophisticated knowledge of computers and flight. This is the official story we must now confront, that pre-Columbian America was completely isolated from the rest of the Old World in Europe and Asia. A vast ocean separated two different branches of humanity. That is the bedrock of anthropology. But what if we found a message that breaks this final rule? This story takes us back to Bolivia, to the high plateau near Lake Titicaca, not far from the impossible ruins of Pumapunku. In the 1950s, a local farmer unearthed a large, ceramic stone bowl. It was beautifully carved, but inside, it was covered in writing. This was the Fuente Magna bowl. It was clearly ancient. This is the disturbing evidence. The writing was a puzzle. It was not Incan, it was not Mayan, it was not any known indigenous script of the Americas. For decades, the bowl sat in a museum, its message locked away. Then, it was examined by linguistic experts, and they found the impossible. The writing on the bowl was a mixture. It contained recognizable Proto-Sumerian glyphs and Sumerian cipherform. This is the language of ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, Sumer, modern-day Iraq, a civilization that flourished around 3000 BC and was separated from Bolivia by 7,000 miles of land and ocean. How did a language from the cradle of civilization in the Middle East end up on a ceremonial bowl in pre-Columbian Bolivia? It's a transatlantic, transmillennial impossibility. Skeptics claim it's a hoax, but many who have studied it insist the markings are authentic. The Fuente Magna bowl is a final, defiant artifact. It's a piece of the puzzle that not only doesn't fit, it seems to come from a different box entirely, forcing us to ask the ultimate question: how much of our own history do we truly know? The evidence is no longer a fringe theory, it's a collection of facts. Footprints in the ash, gears in the sea, messages in stone from the wrong continent. They all point to one profound, uncomfortable truth. We are not the first. We are not the most advanced. We are simply the civilization that remembers the least. The question is, what did they know? And what did we forget? Subscribe, and let's find out together.